Rachel, Lindsay, and more members of Bachelor Nation are showing support for Matt James after he spoke out against the franchise. Hey guys, welcome back to another Shared News from Home. We have the latest info on Matt James's statement, but before we get into it, if you're new here, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell so you don't miss out on any future videos. As always, I'm your host, Fiona Zaring, and today I'm joined by the wonderful Avery Grooms. Avery, this is such a huge story. We have so much to talk about. Let's just dive right in. After weeks of controversy, Matt posted a lengthy statement on Instagram where he called out directly the quote, incredibly disappointing photos of Rachel Kirkconnell and the interview between Rachel Lindsay and Chris Harrison, which he called troubling and painful to watch. We haven't gotten a chance to talk about this yet, so I'm just curious what you thought about his statement.
I completely agree with him. I think everything he said was true. The photos are disappointing. That interview was extremely troubling. But what stood out to me was he made the point that he was finding out all this information regarding Rachel at the same time we were, which I mean has to be hard. But in my mind, had they end up together, I was thinking, okay, maybe they like talked about it and are still together. But I feel like that's not how it ended up. I don't know if he ended up with her, but if he did, this just adds so much more to it. And I just feel for him because he did have so much pressure, just being the Black Bachelor, and they put so much pressure on him. And now he's had to deal with all of this controversy. And it all kind of goes back to just his season being so troubling. And it sucks for him. I feel bad for him.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. At the end of the day, this was supposed to be, his journey to find love. It was supposed to be a huge step forward for the franchise. And here we all are discussing controversy upon controversy. There's really a lot to handle, and I'm sure he feels the weight of it all on his shoulders. Obviously, the statement is incredibly powerful, and it definitely calls out the long history of issues within this franchise. And members of Bachelor Nation are actually coming forward, showing their support for Matt. A lot of people have been very vocal at every stage of the game this season. So it's great to see people continuing, to lend their voices to calling out the franchise. Rachel Lindsay commented on Matt's Instagram, yes, Matt, yes, with clapping emojis. Obviously, she has been such a force in Bachelor Nation and is directly involved, in this latest debate, all of the issues with Chris Harrison. How much do you think her support means to Matt, knowing that she appreciates what he said?
I think it means everything because, like you said, she's been such a force. I feel like if she wasn't involved in this franchise, I honestly don't think Matt would even be the Bachelor right now. I don't think they would have even continued with that because she was the only one really speaking up about it. And because of her platform on the show, that gave her more of a voice. But had none of that happened, I don't even think there would have been necessarily that much change forced on them, you know?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I mean, Rachel Lindsay has been like single handedly calling out the franchise and pushing for change kind of as a, army of one for a while now. And finally, people are catching up with her and her message. So it's great to see, Matt supporting her supporting Matt. These are conversations that need to be had. And, they're two great people to be having them. But of course, it's not just Rachel Lindsay. Some more examples of people from Bachelor Nation who have been showing their support. Our former Bachelorette Kaitlyn Bristowe, she commented a series of hearts. Bachelor in Paradise's Taylor Nolan and the Bachelorette's Olivia Caridi both added a string of clapping hand emojis. Andy Dorfman, who actually knows Matt from their time living in New York City, commented, always have and always will be proud of the kind, strong, compassionate, stand up man you are. Basically, the point is, members of Bachelor Nation are really banding together to make it clear what side of this they fall on. We saw a lot of people jump to Rachel Lindsay's defense. We saw the men of Tayshia's season, the women of Matt's season, release those joint statements. A lot of unprecedented steps are being taken. Do you think if enough members of Bachelor Nation, continue to apply pressure, continue to call out the franchise, is this the moment? I mean, we've been looking for change for a long time. Are we finally going to see some now?
I think if they continue to do this, change will happen, but we've already seen like change on the show, and that was them casting a black lead, and that was them incorporating more POCs in the cast. But if you we just look at how this season went, and everyone's screen time, they kind of like found ways around this whole thing. And I don't think everyone was portrayed or even got as much recognition as they should or normally would. We saw like half of the show focus on Victoria and like petty drama when we didn't really get to see a lot of character development and like the relationships build from like the main girls who a lot were people of color, and it was kind of obvious like how they filmed that to kind of get around it. So it's like, yes, you do have a more diverse cast, but you're not like showing it. So does that even count? So like they're saying they incorporated change this season by doing all this, but when you cheat through it and get around it, like it doesn't really mean much. So I think if they are pressured enough by like members who were on the show, they are going to continue to change, but they actually need to do like real change. I feel like Chris Harrison stepping down, yeah, that's going to make a difference, but the change is going to come from him staying on the show and learning from his mistakes and like dealing with that, not necessarily like walking away. So I think it all depends on how they choose to like react and incorporate it.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this a little bit in a separate video where we broke down Matt's initial statement, but this is not, a band aid situation, right? You can't just hire Matt James and right every single wrong and really, fix things that have been going on behind the scenes clearly for years. I mean, just the fact that he is our first Black Bachelor, every time I say it, I'm shocked by that statement, right? It just feels like kind of unfathomable. In his
Mhm.
statement, Matt calls for institutional change for the better. To me, I'm wondering if at this point the only step we could really take is to basically restructure from the top down behind the scenes, whether or not we end up with, a different show in terms of the content goal. I think that the process of somebody looking for love, meeting a bunch of people, I'm all good there. That's fine. But clearly behind the scenes, we need a whole new show, right? We need different approaches, different minds, different people handling the casting and the vetting process, because the fact that we've ended up where we are with Matt's love story being what it looks like it's going to be is heartbreaking.
It's truly heartbreaking, and that's the thing, like, the people who are doing the casting for the show, they had to have been able to find this type of stuff that was found about Rachel, if all of us on the internet did. So why would you cast someone with a history like that when you know the lead is Black? And this is not the first time it's happened on the show. There was 2 guys with a similar incident on Rachel's season who were casted for her, and it's like, why would you set someone up for that? So obviously there is a lot going on behind the scenes, and I do think it needs to start from ground up again, because they did try to incorporate change and diversity in this season, but they found ways around it, and it kind of just all blew up in their face because they didn't do it the right way. So if we could just do things the right way, give everyone a fair chance and just tell it how it is, then maybe we can have a better show. But I think the structure of it is getting kind of old, and like their traditional style isn't working anymore because we're all catching on to it. The media has more of a voice now, and that's why they're not getting away with as much anymore. So I think a lot does need to change. I'm not sure how, but just with like honesty, just portraying people how they actually are for a start.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I think the question that I just keep coming back to is we don't really know what's going to happen next. Obviously, in theory, and after the final rose is coming without Chris Harrison. Obviously, based on, that statement, just reading between the lines, even if you're not keeping up with spoilers, it does not look like Matt, is walking away from this in love with a relationship with a fiance. So, where do you think we go from here? Where does Matt go from here?
I don't know. I feel for the guy so much. He probably had no idea it would be anything like this when he started the show. And, his best friend's Tyler Cameron. I'm sure he like recommended it and was like, go do it. It'll be fun. But this just ended up like no one could call this out. But I think, he's just going to keep doing him. What much can he do at this point other than hold the franchise accountable, which a lot of people are doing, and just go from there? Since he's been given this platform as the lead, like he can speak out on it more. But this is just a tough situation because we are at the point where it's like where do we go? Where does the show go from here? Do they change the structure? Do they change production? I just think a lot needs to be changed, but I honestly don't know where he would start other than just living his own life and like speaking out for the better about this.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think it's going to be very interesting to see, if we get an after the final rose, what conversations are had. There's a lot of, loose threads right now that need to be tied up. And ultimately, I think we've all just been rooting for Matt to find happiness, find love. So I certainly hope that, even though this process ended up being a bit of a hot mess, he's in a good place. He's maybe happy. Maybe he reconnects with some of the other incredible women we did see some this season. There was a lot of drama, but we did see some strong connections. You guys, on that note, we want to know what your thoughts are regarding everything going on in Bachelor Nation. How are you feeling about Matt's statement? Do you love to see fellow members reaching out and showing their support? Let us know down in the comments. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell because we will keep you updated on all things Matt James. As always, I'm your host, Fiona Zaring. I was joined by the wonderful Avery Grooms. If you want to come say hi, our social handles are on the screen right now. Thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.